righteousness. We're a sanctuary of love in the mind of the Christ Spirit. And wherever that is, that next expression for us, I always say unity of Auburn is an idea in the mind of God. And wherever the next expression of that radiance of us, who we are together, is going to be showing itself. It will be showing itself to one of you or to me, and we'll find it and we'll take off with it. All right, so today's message. I always start with a little humor, and this is one of my all-time favorite pieces of humor. Walking along a California beach, a laywoman was deep in prayer, and suddenly she cried out, "Lord, just grant me one wish." The sky darkened, and a looming voice said, "Because you have had the faith to ask, I will grant you one wish." The woman said, "I hate to fly, but I'd love to go to Hawaii. Please build a bridge to Hawaii so I can drive there whenever I want." The Lord chastised the woman for such a selfish request and reminded her of the task's difficulty, saying, "Think of the logistics. Think of the supports required to reach the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, the concrete and the steel it would take. I can do it, but it is hard for me to justify your desire for such a worldly thought, for such worldly things. Do you have another wish that would honor and glorify me?" The woman thought for a minute. She said, "Okay, Lord, I wish I could understand men. I want to know how they feel inside and what they're thinking and what they mean when they say nothing's bothering them." After a few minutes, God said, "Did you want that bridge 2 lanes or 4? 2 lanes or 4. There you go. Nothing shall be impossible for God. All right, so this morning in August, it is Myrtle Fillmore's Omnipotent Courage. I think we build this lesson as your healing doesn't depend on time. But somehow when I go to write my sermons, I don't always have that list in front of me. So I called it Fillmore's Omnipotent Courage. Both of the Fillmores have their birthdays in August, so they're our co-founders of the Unity Movement. And I try to share something about them as well as the development of the Unity Movement in the months of August. So, first of all, Myrtle said, "First of all, let us tell you that it makes no difference what the doctors have done or said. It makes no difference what the examinations and the x-rays have shown. You have placed your faith in the doctors and the hospital for a sufficiently long period now. So let's forget them and turn our attention to God and study and understand His way and receive God's help." Those words, and many like them, were written by Myrtle Fillmore, who came to be known as the Mother of Unity. She was the co-founder of Unity with her husband, Charles. Now let me be clear from the very beginning. Unity is not like Christian Science, where we don't believe in doctors at all. We believe that the infinite mind of the Christ functions through the surgeon and the physician the same way as it functions through you. But the Christ Spirit within you has priority and dominance, and when you align with that, as we'll hear what Myrtle in her story, as you align with that, all things are possible. So when they say, forget what the doctors say, forget what the x-rays show, let's don't be influenced by external things, you know. I sprained my foot last week, and I've been practicing Myrtle's techniques on it. You know, it's black and blue still, but somebody said, "How's your foot?" And I blurted out, "It's healing." It wasn't even a second thought. I just said, "It's healing." I didn't say, "Oh, ooh, ah, ooh," you know. So anyway, those words and many like them were written by Myrtle Fillmore, who came to be known the Mother of Unity. She was born, this is kind of interesting, she was born Mary Caroline Page, August 6th, 1845, 180 years ago. This unity thought was percolating on the planet, right? But the legacy she left is keenly alive in her words and her prayers and her teachings. As a child, she was known as a dreamer, a funny, peculiar little girl with a head full of wispy hair. And she said she often felt awkward when people laughed at her funny ideas, but she knew that nothing was too good or too beautiful to be true. So it's that child heart, that innocence of that child's heart. Nothing too good or too beautiful to be true in the designing room of her mind, in her imagination, in the creative aspects of her being. As a woman, Myrtle lived many of her childhood dreams into reality, co-founding Unity School of Christianity for the study of life and spirituality as demonstrated by Jesus Christ. She and Charles both followed the teachings of Jesus Christ. Second only to her love of God was her love for education. She completed high school while the Civil War was going on. And she graduated, and after she graduated, President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated after her graduation. She enrolled in the literary course for ladies at Oberlin College. Her studies lasted only 1 year because women were not eligible for four-year degree of education. In 1918, both she and Charles had been working on the development of the Unity teachings, and they were going to be ordained, and so they decided to take a final examination for their ordination to clarify their understanding of the teachings. So they took the final exam to receive ordination, and the test consisted of 68 questions written by Charles. So Charles scored 100%. Imagine that. Myrtle got a grade of 98.5 because she overlooked one question, and Charles judged another question less than perfectly answered. So she got 98.5. And they were presented with very beautiful ornate ordination certificates, to frame and hang. But as beautiful as they were, Myrtle went through and struck every single word that said him and changed it to her. She was determined to make patterns for a beautiful world and to honor the sacred worth of every human being and who they are and how they show up. She was diagnosed at an early age with tuberculosis. Not until after many years of sufferings did she discover the truth about herself. She and Charles went to a lecture by Dr. E.B. Weeks, and in that lecture, not unlike a room like this, she heard Dr. Weeks say, "I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness." All of Myrtle's family had a strand of tuberculosis running through them. She felt that she had inherited, but it was an aha wake-up moment for her. I'm a child of God, I don't inherit sickness, but look, I'm filled with tuberculosis and malaria. I've been sick most of my life. But she left that lecture awakened to a new level of possibilities for her life. When the Fillmores settled in Kansas City, Myrtle's condition deteriorated, her flare-up of tuberculosis complicated with fevers of malaria. She placed her faith in doctors and medications rather than in God, and she was constantly dosing herself with tinctures and powders and medications. And ultimately, the doctors said they could do nothing more for her and told her she only had a short time to live. In my readings and my study, it was like they gave her 3 months to live. And it was then that she and Charles began to search for and eventually found a constructive, practical relationship to their faith. They originally, I think, the faith tradition that they were following just wasn't satisfying for them. You may have found that because you're here at Unity. You wanted practical Christianity. They wanted something that was relevant to their lives, relevant to the prosperity in their lives, relevant to the health of their bodies. Otherwise, they'd just stay home on Sunday and rest, and have family time. So they began to search for a constructive, practical relationship in their faith. And they started having little study groups in their living room. They invited people over and they began talking about the truth teachings. Myrtle used spiritual principles to heal herself, and when she got well, she wanted to share what she had learned. Now there's a famous piece that she wrote. This is Myrtle Fillmore, Mother of Unity book by Thomas Witherspoon. And there's a piece that Myrtle wrote about her healing. It's a bit long, but I think you'll find it tremendously interesting. If you've never heard it before, it's upon us really to review it once a year at least, because it's so powerful in terms of how she used spiritual principle to heal her body. So as I read it to you this morning, if there's any spot in your body, any spot in the clarity of your mind, any spot in any organ, function, or action in your body, just let Myrtle's words speak to that. She said, let's see, let me find here. It was not enough for Myrtle to believe in and accept her own healing. She wanted to share it with Charles, with the rest of the family, and with friends. So finally, she shared it with the world in an article which she wrote entitled, How I Found Health. How I Found Health. Since its first publication in Unity magazine, it has never been out of print. Countless thousands have read it in a pamphlet form and have been inspired by it. So listen to Myrtle's words here. I have made what seems to me a discovery. A discovery. I was fearfully sick. I had all the ills of mind and body that I could bear. Medicine and doctors ceased to give me relief, and I was in despair. When I found practical Christianity, I took it up and I was healed. I love that line. I took it up and I was healed. I did most of the healing myself because I wanted the understanding for future use. This is how I made what I call my discovery. I was thinking about life. Life is everywhere, in the worm and in a man. Then why does not life in the worm make a body like a man's? I asked. Then I thought, the worm has not as much sense as a man. Ah, intelligence. Intelligence as well as life is needed to make a body. Here is the key to my discovery. Life has to be guided by intelligence in making all forms. The same law works in my body, that the infinite intelligence in my mind can guide the creation and the sustainability of my body. The same law works in my own body. Life is simply a form of energy, and it has to be guided and directed in man's body by his or her intelligence. How do we communicate intelligence? By thinking and talking, of course. Then it flashed upon me that I might talk to the life in every part of my body and have it do just what I wanted. And I began to teach my body, and I got marvelous results. Then she went through her body. You know, I was friends with Dorothy Pearson, and who had an apartment over Mr. Fillmore's garage, so she knew him personally. And Rosemary Fillmore Ray, the granddaughter of the Fillmores, grew up with Mr. Fillmore, and she and I were pretty close personal friends when I lived at Unity Village. And so I got a lot of stories about the Fillmores, personal stories. And so this is just exactly what Myrtle did. She said, I told the life in my liver that it was not torpid, which means infected. I looked it up. It was not infected, but full of vigor and energy. I told the life in my stomach that it was not weak or inefficient, but energetic, strong, and intelligent. I told the life in my abdomen that it was no longer infested with ignorant ideas of diseases put there by myself and by doctors, but that it was all athrill with the sweet, pure, wholesome energy of God. So she's talking to her body. And Rosemary said, in their home, she cleaned out, you know when you have that staircase and you have that closet under the stairs? Myrtle cleared that closet out, and she put a desk and a chair for herself and a chair for the presence of Jesus Christ and a Bible and a lamp, and went in there 8 hours a day to read and study practical teaching, study the Bible to get a sense of practical, applicable Christianity, or the faith and teachings of Jesus Christ. So she's speaking this to her body. So she said, I told my eyes they did not see of themselves, but they expressed the sight of spirit, and that they were drawing on an unlimited source. I told them that they were young eyes, clear eyes, bright eyes, because the light of God shone right through them. I told my heart that the pure love of Jesus Christ flowed in and out and through its beatings, and that all the world felt its joyous pulsation. I went to all the life centers in my body and spoke words of truth to them, words of strength, words of power. I asked their forgiveness. I asked their forgiveness for the foolish, ignorant course that I had pursued in the past, when I had condemned them and called them weak. How often do you look in the mirror and go, oh, got to do something about this? You know, she's saying you have to ask forgiveness because your body can hear your every word, can feel your every energetic vibration. I went to all the life centers in my body and spoke words of truth to them. I did not become discouraged at their being slow to wake up, but I kept right on, both silently and aloud, declaring the words of truth until the organs responded. And neither did I forget to tell them that they were free, unlimited spirit. I told them that they were no longer in bondage to the limitations of the human mind, and that they were not corruptible flesh, but centers of life and energy omnipresent. Your body is the temple of the Christ Spirit. Then I asked the Father to forgive me for taking his life into my organism and there using it so meanly. I promised him that I would never, never again retard the free flow of the life through my mind, my body, and any false word or thought, with any false word or thought, and I would always bless it, bless my body, and encourage it with true thoughts and words in its wise work of building up my body temple, that I would use all diligence and wisdom in telling it just what I wanted it to do. I also saw that I was using the life of the Father in thinking thoughts and speaking words, and I became very watchful as to what I thought and said. I did not let any worried or anxious thoughts into my mind, and I stopped speaking gossipy, frivolous, petulant, angry words. I let a little prayer go up every hour that Jesus Christ would be with me and help me to think and to speak only kind, loving, true words. And I am sure that he is with me because I am so peaceful and happy now. I want everybody to know about this beautiful, true law and to use it. It's not a new discovery, but when you use it and get the fruits of health and harmony, it will seem new to you, and you will feel that it is your own discovery. I have made what seems to me a discovery. I was fearfully sick. I had all the ills of mind and body that I could bear. Medicine and doctors ceased to give me relief, and I was in despair when I found practical Christianity. I took it up, and I was healed. So she got well. It took 2 years. 2 years in that closet. I often wondered, Charles's mother lived, she did all the cooking and the house cleaning. Must have taken care of the 3 children while Myrtle was in the closet 8 hours a day, right? She came out of that closet after 2 years, healed. She'd been given 3 months to live, and she lived 46 years beyond that diagnosis, founding the Unity Movement, creating Silent Unity, the World Prayer Ministry. So she went on to develop the prayer ministry of Unity today that's known as Silent Unity. It receives millions of prayer requests. People started writing letters to the Fillmores, and then the correspondence became so big they had to hire letter writers, and Myrtle stopped writing the letters. She would put a personal note on each one. Sometimes she would write personal letters, and there's a whole book called Myrtle Fillmore's Healing Letters that really capture her consciousness and her teachings. I'll share one with you at the end of our lesson if you want to see how she would write to people. Some of them were funny, and some of them they're all just keeping us right to truth. For over 40 years, the names Silent Unity and Myrtle Fillmore were virtually synonymous, the same, in the minds of thousands of people. When Myrtle began, she was the only Silent Unity letter writer. She wrote by hand for many years, and then she did learn to type. Eventually, secretaries handled the correspondence, but she would put a personal note on it. The letters she wrote to those who asked for prayer paint a portrait of our most fundamental teachings and tell about the deep spiritual commitment that Myrtle had to God, to Jesus Christ, and to the practical application of spiritual principle. We come here every week to learn the teachings, to learn the principle of prosperity, the principle of harmony and healing, the principle of divine order, those principles, and then we can take them and apply them in our lives. Patience and persistence were two of the traits that Myrtle stressed. Oh, there's a picture of silent unity. So this is called the light that shines for you. They've had this light, and even when they built a new building, Dorothy Pearson was one of the people that moved the light across the campus to the new place, and this light never goes out. It shines for you all the time someone is praying. And this is the Silent Unity prayer room, that there are a whole body of telephone prayer workers and letter writers in a room, and on their shift, one part of their shift for 30 minutes, there's a changing of the guard, and two of the workers go in and sit down in this prayer room and hold all the Silent Unity prayer requests in prayer. On the outside of this room, there are walls on both sides like this, filled with bins of letters that you've written. Any kind of correspondence, emails, or printed off, anything you write is in that bin, and it's all dated. So every 30 days, that's changed out. But there's walls and walls of bins. And the two people who go in and pray are looking at that wall, be still and know, and it's total silence, and they just hold your prayer request along with all the others that are there in prayer. Silent Unity holds your request in prayer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But one of those hours every time, two people are praying in the center chapel of the Silent Unity building, all for you. And that's been going on for, it was 125 years, a few years ago that they celebrated, so 130 years maybe at least. Patience and persistence were the two traits Myrtle stressed the most in the healing process of prayer. She knew from her own experience that healing can take time. Over a 2-year period, Spirit revealed in Myrtle that her body's cells had intelligence and that powerful words of health and life affected them. When you say, oh, I can't get up and do that. I'm not able to see as well as I used to. I can't drive at night. Your body can hear you. And as I shared with you, I had eye surgery in May, and I've been using my eyes are clear eyes, bright eyes, they see with the light of Spirit, and they weren't getting any better, and I've been working on it for a year or more, but it led me to the surgeon that put a clear cornea in my eye, and now I can see my eyes are clear eyes, bright eyes. So you don't know how your prayer will be answered, but you keep affirming to be guided to the right people, places, things, and answers. Sometimes, maybe if I had a few more years, I could work that on my own. What does this say? 2 traits, patience and persistence. Myrtle stressed these the most in the healing process of prayer. Spirit revealed to her that her body's cells had intelligence and that powerful words affected them. I would say casual words affect it. Casual words affect it. If you get up every day and go, my back aches, my joints are inflamed, I need glucosamine and chondroitin, it might be better to say, I love my body. And like we sing in the shower, every little cell in my body is healthy in the shower. Every little cell in my body is well. Every little cell in my body is healthy. Every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad, I feel so good. Every little cell in my body is well. Something like that. Turn your attention off of the weakness and stress powerful words that can affect your whole being, She learned she could talk to her body in positive, loving tones, and that her body would respond with health and life. Her diagnosis to live a few months, she lived 46 years beyond that, as I said. Now, in Dr. Carolyn Leaf's book, Switch on Your Brain, she says, our brains can change as we learn to renew the way we think. I think I have a slide for that, Jesse. Our brains can change. They're talking about building a new neural network. She learned she could talk to her body in positive, loving tones, and her body would respond. And that's all of these are pictures of Myrtle that you're seeing. That's her young, wispy hair. Next slide is, you don't have a problem except the one that's in your own mind, and you put it there. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Next one shows, Switch on Your Brain. There's Dr. Carolyn Leaf, and I love her book. Our brains can change as we learn to renew the way we think. I think Church of Religious Science, now Centers for Spiritual Living, change your thinking, change your life. That you program new neural networks, but it's not something that happens like that. You're building a new neural network with the thoughts in your mind. And then those neural networks cascade into your body and create whatever signal you're sending. If you're sending health and life, you're building health and life and energy and vitality. That's what you're cascading into your body. If you're building depression and sickness and aches and pains and all that stuff, you're cascading that into your body, and your body's responding. You have dominion of your body. Dr. E.B. Weeks, I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. I am in dominion of my life. Dr. Leaf says that you may be predisposed to diabetes. You may have that gene in you, but that gene is triggered by your thoughts. You may be predisposed to an illness, but you are not predestined to that illness. And you have to trigger the gene in your body to make it appear. You may be predisposed to alcoholism because all of your family were alcoholics, but you trigger the gene in you when you start drinking and following that path. But you may be predisposed to that. Your whole family, your mother was depressed, her mother was depressed, you have depression. No. You may be predisposed to depression, but you are not predestined to it because you have dominion. You have dominion of your body, and you take dominion in your thoughts and in the words you speak. Your body can hear you. We demonstrate the law of good by, when letter writers complained to Myrtle that they tried and prayed and there were no results, no immediate results, she understood their feelings and encouraged them out of her own experience. She said, we demonstrate the law of good by holding fast to spiritual principle in spite of what appears to the limited senses. This sprain on your foot or this ache in your back is the human mind of you, the human self of you, which we don't deny, but we deny that it has any power over the ultimate power of the Christ Spirit within you, of the God self of you. The human self of you experiences things, but the God self of you is all pervasive, has all power and all possibility within you. She shared that she too had prayed most of her life and was always a religious person, yet she was sick and in the 1800s near death. She said no matter how much she prayed, her condition worsened. Finally, she asked God what was wrong. And the answer she received was passed along to thousands of people in her letters from Silent Unity. And the answer she received said, that's the slide, Jesse, Spirit said to me, you have looked among your faults, now look among your virtues. She said, I thought that was strange, but it soon came to me that I didn't feel as sweet and poised on the inside as I seemed outwardly. You know, I'm fine. Do you ever say, I'm fine, but you're not fine? Because what inside of you knows how you really are and how you really feel. And you've got to align those to I'm fine to really I am fine. Every whole part of my body is fine and wonderful. I began to watch and redeem this state of mind as I gained real poise and the ability to keep my thoughts and feelings truly free. I was healed and restored to strength and normal functioning. Watch your words, watch your thoughts, the state of your mind. I gained the ability to keep my thoughts and feelings truly free. I'm in dominion of what I say and what I think, when I look in the mirror, when I get out of the bed, when I bend over to tie my shoes. Now Skechers, you can step into them. You don't have to bend over and tie them anymore, right? But, you know, the key to Myrtle's healing is never stress the sickness. Always look to the good, to the health, to the life in every situation. What's possible for you? What's possible for you, right? In Unity, we teach several things. I want to close with some of the major teachings of Unity. If you're here for the first time, it's really good. In Unity, we teach our body is not a bundle of flesh, bones, glands, organs, blood vessels, but a temple of the indwelling Christ Spirit. You're a temple. Within you is the Spirit of God, and it's sourcing and sustaining everything about you. And your connection with it is in your mind and in the feelings in your heart. Second thing we teach, in Unity, we teach to spiritualize all our thinking. That's the way to permanent healing for the body is the fruit of the mind. Your body is an outpicturing of what you're holding in the dominant consciousness in your mind. Your dominant state of thinking is expressing itself in your body. If you don't like what you see or don't like what you're feeling, change your thinking, change your life. Next one we teach. In Unity, we teach our body and affairs are the outpicturing of what we hold in our consciousness. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Yeah, you are what you think. You look like what you think. Your dominant thought process is showing up in your body. Next. Healing is not something that comes from any external source. God in the midst of you is the one healing power in the universe. Now your prayers may lead you to an external source, an x-ray, a chemo treatment, or whatever, but you're being guided by spirit. Again, in unity, we don't say you don't have cancer. We don't deny there's not a tumor in your body, but we say the Spirit of God within you has ultimate power over that tumor, to heal that tumor. And when you work in cooperation with it, your healing will be, you'll be led and guided to the places. You know, the same Christ Spirit intelligence in you is in the intelligence of the surgeon that's operating on you. The same Christ Spirit that's in you is the same Christ Spirit that's in the doctor that's examining you and reading the x-rays. And so you link that mind of Christ with your mind and the mind of the physician, and together it's a cooperative effort that brings healing. It may bring healing because we've advanced in our teachings and our theory and our possibilities and our medical practices to where we can do a lot of things externally to the body, but your symptoms will return if you haven't healed it in your consciousness. If your consciousness is producing it and you cut it out, you have the same consciousness that produced it in the first place, it may return, right? So the key is to heal your consciousness, to heal whatever it is in you that's distorted or out of alignment with the true purity of your being. And when you touch that and heal that, your healing is forever. It's permanent. Lastly, is there one more up there? I don't know if we have one more. Oh, no, that's Myrtle's letters. I want to close with one of her letters so you get a sense of how she wrote to people. This letter is entitled, No Incurable Disease. Dorothy Pearson always said, if they tell you something's incurable, it just means it's an inner cure that's needed. You have to touch that point in you, in the consciousness of your mind where you're out of alignment with true beauty and harmony in life. This was written in 1948. There is no such thing as a disease or incurable condition. These activities, weaknesses, or abnormalities in which the medical profession gives names are but the efforts of a God-given inner intelligence to deal with conditions that the individual has produced by his failure to understand the truth and to recognize himself as a perfect child of God and to live by the divine law of life. So something's producing in you, showing up in you, a tumor, a high blood pressure, whatever. There's something at the back of that, at the source in you, that's inflamed, and so your blood pressure raises up, or there's, you need to explore in prayer, just ask God, what is that in me that needs to be purified, cleansed, and released? Anything that does not measure up to the Christ pattern of perfection can be changed. Anything. Anything that the ideas of God mind expressing in the mind of man have not produced can be dissolved into the original nothingness by the understanding and application of the power of spiritual thought and the resultant spiritual action. So you can dissolve anything out of you. Doctors, of course, judge by appearances, founding their opinions upon the study of effects, drawing their conclusions from the outworking of mistakes the patients have made. There's something wrong in my thinking. Not wrong, but we get a little hurt and it grows into a regret, and it grows into a resentment that lodges itself somewhere in our thinking, and then it shows up in a malfunction in our body. And the doctors can analyze the malfunction that's showing up, but they don't get to the back of it, to the source. She said, it can be dissolved into the original nothingness by an understanding application of the power of spiritual thought and the resultant spiritual action. By sitting in the silence and allowing the Christ mind to scan your body and reveal in your thought process, in your thinking, where something may be out of alignment. So when someone comes to us, she says, who has had a doctor diagnose his illness, we ask him to turn from the doctor's opinions and verdict and to cease to think of the name he gave the condition that existed at the time of the examination and the treatment. So that's my rheumatoid arthritis, my high blood pressure, my depression, my lower back pain, my insomnia. You know, my. Don't put your my or your I am depressed. Don't put an I am, God's name for you, attached to anything negative. We ask him not to cast out all assumptions that this condition would not be changed and done away with, just as one would refuse to hold to and think of some unworthy, untrue, gossipy thing that he may have heard someone say as he walked down the street. So they ask you to turn from the label and the name. You watch all the television commercials now, and I can't pronounce 1/10 of the things that they're saying and the drugs that they name that's supposed to treat it. Oh, if you have blah, 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 you need blah, 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 blah. She said, stop with all of that. Just strike the TV and say, I'm a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. We ask that he is to begin at once to rejoice that he is the offspring of God, that the life and the substance of his body and the perfect pattern of life in that body are gifts of God, gifts that are in reality inseparably one with his own being, the very essence of God life and God's substance and God intelligence. It is God's plan, you know, to have the creation picture forth and express his ideas, his qualities, and his being. It is our purpose in being here to become conscious of and to express in our lives the true pattern and qualities of our Father, Mother, God. She goes on, but you get the sense of how she wrote to people and what her beliefs were. And so I always think it's interesting that for years, when I was going back to Unity Village, which was in the 80s, it was always Charles Fillmore was the founder of Unity. And it was only in the 80s when they said he was the co-founder. And they began to bring Charles and Myrtle as founders of the Unity movement. So I think one more slide, Jesse. I think it might be an affirmation we can close with, yeah. So this is one of Myrtle's affirmations in the scripture from Hebrews, but let's affirm this together. God within me is my source of healing life, giving me strength and courage. And Hebrews, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction or the evidence of things not seen. And I always read that as things not yet seen. When you're working on healing your body and it's not showing up immediately, it's the conviction of things not seen. But they're seen in the eyes of spirit, and you can be whole and well. So let's close now with prayer and seal that in our thinking in a time of prayer, meditation. So we join together now in prayer as we turn within to that point of light that Myrtle kept emphasizing. And we release any outer concerns, and we allow God's peace and love to fill our awareness. We're in this beautiful sanctuary, nestled in here like puppies in a basket, I always think. And there's just a peace and a security and a faith and a trust. And in this stillness of God's presence, we turn from any outer concern to that holy place within. There is a tabernacle in your heart. And if you open the doors of that instrument, there is only a radiant white light. And you see that this is God as a living, loving presence. And in your mind's eye now, let that light from that tabernacle that's at the center of your heart, this is the Christ, very Christ Spirit within you, your sanctuary, your peace, your place of peace. Open those doors and let that radiant light stream out through all of your body. See it as a bright golden light, maybe a white light. And let it move out, pumped out from your heart, through your bloodstream, to any place in your body where you feel an adjustment, a realignment is needed. And you let it flow, gently, gently. It flows into your eyes, healing them. It flows in your blood, balancing your blood pressure. It flows down your spine, realigning and healing and strengthening every part of you. It flows into all the organs in your body so that every action and function of every organ feels its elixir and perks up and comes alive with new health and vibrancy. This white golden light has a soothing energy. It moves into your mind and your thoughts, and any fear about any condition, any fear about any healing that's needed, any fear about not overcoming this condition. It clarifies that, it purifies that. And all that remains in your thought is the purity of the Christ Spirit. You let your mind be one with the mind of Christ. The prayer I like to use, I am now lifted up into the Jesus Christ level of awareness. What was his awareness like? I am now lifted up into the Jesus Christ level of mind. My mind is one with the mind of Christ. My mind is one with God mind, divine mind. And as you feel that streaming in and through your thoughts, you feel its infinite intelligence guiding you. You feel its infinite harmony restoring peace. Your heart swells up with love and kindness. And all of this cascades out of your mind, your human mind, cascades from God mind to your human mind, and like a waterfall, cascades through your whole body. From the top of your head to the soles of your feet. Every part of you receives this elixir of spirit. In Ephesians it says, "Clothe yourselves with the new self, created according to the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness." Clothe yourself with a new self, created out of this purity of thought that's flowing in and through your mind. And every day, sit for a few minutes and allow this purity of spirit to flow from your mind into your body. I rest and replenish myself in God. I rest and replenish myself in God. Let's affirm it. I rest and replenish myself in God. And if there's anyone you especially wish to bless with this idea, call them to mind now. See their face in the vision of your eyes before you. Anyone who could be blessed and healed by this word, by this prayer. Silently inside yourself, speak their name. And for others, we affirm, you rest and replenish yourself in God. For others, together, you rest and replenish yourself in God. And in these few moments of silence now, in this loving awareness of our togetherness as unity of Auburn, we pray in faith and in love. And we allow the words that we speak to be sent forth to heal and to bless. I rest and replenish myself in God. And from this moment on, I get up and I go about my business and my life and my world reinvigorated and revitalized, knowing that I have an answer that I've been seeking to wholeness and health in my body, to the restoration of life and vitality and strength. And for this, we are each grateful. And we give thanks in the name and the nature of the living Christ. And together we all say, Amen.